are live, and we are exploring something new, which is just a vlog showing me recovering from a refactoring. Well, the way I like to work is just when I decide to change something, just throw all the pieces up in the air, scramble them around, change all the names, move everything, just break the bejesus out of it, and then and then hit run and see where I end up. And this is we're not going to be looking over here. Oh, wait a minute, are we recording? Yeah. So we're not going to be over here looking at the iPhone because yeah, it's we're using it. We're in console mode here, and the only reason I'm using this is going to be a long story, too short. Uh, the hot reload, if I put it in the batch component of the main function, the hot reload doesn't get there, but and I don't like reaching over to hit return in the console to get a hot restart, and then the team ClojureDart won't change the default or give us an option. So anyway, I have to run it as an app in the app, but it's just as well because I want to get Matrix involved. So I apologize to Team ClojureDart for putting my problems on them. So what we do, though, actually seriously, is I can make a change over here and expect a task. Well, oh, we are getting it. No, that's just the code. I can make a change. It doesn't matter. It'll run. And so this is actually this. Where are you? I moved the camera. We're now recording with the iPhone. Much better. Much better. Oh, the other one was fine too. I'm sorry. Um, and here I am looking at the code, and it looks like I'm looking at the code. Isn't that neat? But I'm a little bit crowded. I'm a little bit too close to the code. I'm gonna go blind. Okay, so, uh, oh, now you can't see the back of my head. Oh God, life is so hard. What is this? We're just adjusting. Oh, okay, cool, very cool. Okay, and I need a haircut. You are absolutely right. Now, next, where was I? So, what I did was I had this working, and it generated output like this. And its isolates are a wonderful, wonderful Flutter feature and ability to, even though it's a single-threaded world, to create an isolate, which is a worker which has access to more hardware resources. I'm still looking at the wrong camera. More hardware resources, like more cores, things like that. So and it truly offloads to this other hardware. So your main animations or whatever, you just key taps, things like that, are more responsive. So, Ian Fernandez just got the team rolling on isolates, thanks to him. And we're just digging more and more in. Actually, I should give this guy a shout out. Plague Fox. Uh, where is his? I don't know if I have him handy. Yeah, this is some of his other stuff. I was very impressed by his tutorial on this on isolates, and so I checked him out more deeply. So where are we? I'm trying. So what I've done is we had something going, and then I said, well, let me change it a little bit so that we're sending maps instead of just ports, and recognizing ports. We can actually have a message type in the map and make a definite identification of the message being received, because the two guys are going to be going back and forth, isolate and main isolate and worker isolate, and it's going to be a conversation. So the more structure we have, the more information we can put into it, the easier the code will be. So the original would actually look for a port being the type of the message, and then know what to do with it. So I said, well, let me make that explicit, make it a little bit easier to debug and code and whatever. It might be a little bit more verbose on the coding, but not a lot. And as a Clojurian, we live with maps. We live by maps. So we've got our first error, and I know exactly what this is because it says unknown symbol message at line 53. And that's because I changed from message to task. So now I got to go find all the places where I did that. So I'm gonna just save this and see what the next error is. Whoa. It's not. Oh, in typecast. Okay. So before we would actually send the port. Now I'm sending a mat, and apparently I forgot to pull the guy out of the. So here we're well, we're not going to get a line number out of that. We have no idea where we are. So so let me so we got ink. Well, as task. Wait a minute. Ink. Oh my gosh. Of so what happened? The task used to, when we're computing the factorial, the task would come in and it would be identified as a computation, and the task itself would be the number to compute. But now we're doing inc of. We're taking the function of. I wasn't sure what to call that, so I called it of. The fact we take the factorial of something. Any math people out there that want to give me a shout in the comments, let me know what that would be. So, inc of. I should maybe we could prove that name. I don't know. So let's just say that was probably where it went wrong. All right. So still upset about it is not a send port. Oh well, yeah, right. The inc of that would not be an integer. So boy, and get me the spawn. This is the actual worker. This function is going to be the worker function, and let's see. We'll just have to puzzle this out here. The first thing it does. Well, let's see. Did we get back the got worker isolate? So we got the isolate. Starts listening. Sends its receiver. Worker sends its receiver. Okay, so that's good. Ooh, what I just do. Oh man, let's not do that again. All right, so it sends its receiver asking for this, and it does have a send port, and that's where we want to talk. Ah, result port. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Wow, I got that wrong. Because what we're doing is this becomes the first parameter to the worker function. And up here, I've got this crazy idea that I'm being passed a send port. No, I'm not. Now I'm being passed a map. That was the whole idea. So we want, and what do we say? Message type. Oi. Oh my God. I hope I don't have message type and result port. Bam. And this is very cool. Clojure will parse this. Well, let's just see what happens here. So now I got keys and result port. Task port is send port, result port, send result port. Okay, let's just give that a shot. Oh, booyah! Touch 'em all. Who is he? Who is this boy? Damn. I I changed a lot. Whew. Quick, commit. I said commit. Yeah. Save. Well, save is good enough. Save is a commit that doesn't say anything. But I should have said what I was committing. Okay. Well, hey. Wow. I did better than usual. I guess that's the show. Wow. Okay. See ya. Yeah, well, I was so stunned that worked that I didn't know what to do. But it occurs to me that I might as well talk a little bit about isolates. I've learned so much from Ian's work and Plague Fox, um, and they are kind of tricky. And I can just go through this. Uh, there is a lot of comments here. I'll put a link to this source code in the comments of the YouTube after I upload it. But we start off with, this is matrix, by the way. When you have a object, you can have properties, and you can have properties here that are functions, and functions are usually computing off of other things to come up with a new value, but they're general little dynamic workhorses. Up here, I have a property that isn't dynamic at all. It just asks for a receive port, and it puts it in a labeled property so it can be picked up a couple different places. I think it's used a couple different places, and if not, eventually it goes away, right? So, am I recording? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we'll use that later. So now the worker ISO. Well, obviously this is our big deal here. We're gonna create an isolate, a separate. Actually, this is kind of cool. It actually gets a copy of everything, but it's a separate core, or at least a separate. I don't want to say process. It's more than a separate process. And what we're going to do is, and here it is, the big deal is isolate spawn. Isolate being the class, spawn being a, I don't know, static method, I think they're called. We don't do too much OO in Clojure, but we live nicely with Flutter and its OO. So what we're going to do is we're going to spawn an isolate. Now you notice that I set up here on this formula async true. The internals of matrix will deal with that. It'll take the future that's created by isolate.spawn, wait for it to resolve. When it resolves, it's going to jam it into the property worker ISO as if it was, there all along. But that means it starts out as nil while it's waiting for the future to be resolved. So you'll see below somewhere, okay, down here it says when mgetme worker ISO, when the ISO is non-nil. Okay, now we can go to work on it. So this is how you deal with futures in a nice declarative fashion. Declarative rules. This is what it's all about. And functional. Declarative and functional kind of go together. And functional rules. I think everyone appreciates that. We're kind of used to imperative if we use languages like Dart. But functional is this nice, you got your input, you got your output, and that's all you're going to do throughout your whole application. I recommend it. So here we go. We're going to spawn the isolate, and we give it the actual code that's going to run. It could be a separate function, obviously, and just list it there, and that would make this a little bit cleaner to read. But I'm sort of doing baby steps, refinements here, and committing after each one. Because boy, once things go wrong, it can be tough to get back, if you know what I mean. So we got this is actually going to be the worker, and the first thing it does, as the comment says, is it makes a receive report. It hangs on to that. It's just going to be a function, so it doesn't need to put it anywhere. It's just a local variable. And it sends it back to the main isolate. And it has to be that way because the main isolate cannot make a receiver. It can send over a send port, but it can't send over a receive report. I'm sure they have a very good reason for that. So the worker has to make its own receive report. And it does so, and it sends it back. And it sends it back now in a map. The original that I stole this from was just sending back the port, and there was some code you'll see down below where it just assumed that the first thing back was a port. Well, what we're doing is which is fine because it's our code. We control it. We tell it to send that back, so that's fine. But I was making things more explicit, just having fun, basically, just getting to know the software and isolates and all that. So I wrapped it up in a bundle, and I said, okay, here's the message type. This was the bug that I had to fix in the video, was message type config result port. So I wrapped, before it started out as just sending in the send port, and that's why the code was expecting a send port. But I said, no, let's make that explicit. We'll give it a message type config. We give some, the result port, and all that good stuff. And then the factorial worker gets this map And this is called destructuring, by the way, in Clojure. It just automatically, oh, you're sending in a map. Well, and you just care about the parts. Okay, just tell me how you want me to destructure it. Tell me the keys that you expect to be in the map, and they better be there. And I'll get them out into what feel like parameters to the function. Although if the real parameter was this entire map, nice. We call that destructuring. Um, so where was I? Okay, so the worker first makes a receive port and then sends that back with the message type config, because we're still doing config stuff. And it says, now here's the task port, meaning you're going to send me tasks on this port. And down here, okay, so down here, and this is the main isolate. This is kind of fun. We're looking at two programs at once. The main program, and this guy is waiting for a message to come back, and he's listening on the port that he sent over as the result port. He's listen. He sends it over. He waits for the isolate to be created. As soon as the isolate is created, he starts listening on that port, and the port that was given to the worker isolate, and he's not assuming here that the first thing will be the port, the task port. He just looks at the message. What is the message type? Oh, it's a config. Great. I know what to do with configs. What does it do? it. Oh, and by the way, I don't destructure here because the different messages are going to have different properties. So he gets the message back, and he knows it's a config. So he knows there better be a task port in the message, and he does a matrix mset, which is right here, which says, okay, now I know what the task out port is, and I'm going to hang out to it here. This is a little bit of local state. So I get that back. Now, by the way, if I wanted to, what I could do is I could say in the factorial handler, when this message type comes through and you're giving me back a factorial, I could say, hey, if I haven't had the port back, the config message back, I could say, hey, where's the config message? You're sending me a factorial before config. So that would be a little code, safeguarding that we tend to do a lot when we're programming. But it also slows us down if we worry too much. You know what? I'm going to run this. If I don't do it right, it's going to break right away. If someone changes it, it's just not going to work. So I can be a little bit more efficient in terms of productivity for my client, for my user. If I stay a little bit more streamlined and don't sweat, putting on 12 seatbelts. You got one seatbelt, which is that it ain't going to work. so go with that. I digress. A tendency of mine, you shall see. Okay, so this guy comes back, he gets the config, he stashes away the task output, which he's going to need because once I set the task output, the dispatcher then says, hey, he's waiting on that to happen. He's waiting for the task output to be fed back. So when it comes, as soon as he gets it fed back, this is reactive. This is formulaic stuff here. This guy says when let task port, and I should change this data name too. When I task to worker, when I get back that port, fine. Now I can send over the one job we have. By the way, in this test we just have one job. We send over. Let's get the factorial of 7. So he's waiting on, and there's so much timing and coordination necessary. But Matrix, if I can brag on Matrix, sort of just automatically coordinates and sequences these things by, then you say, well, when, look up here. When I've got the isolate, when I've got the isolate, start listening to the port that I sent it to send over results on. And down here, and when one of the results is the output port. Oh, this gets set by over here, and that triggers that. Oh, this just becomes true, and then this guy says, "Oh, look, we've got a task output. Let's send it along." So if I just had created a task output and it was there all along, fantastic. It would work. But this is one nice timing thing with a lot of async going on here. But Matrix doesn't care because it kind of expects information to come along in a stream, in an unpredictable stream. It was designed around user interfaces, and if you want an unpredictable stream, try programming for a user. And users know that too. That's why, whenever we get stuck on something, we just refresh the whole screen because it's really easy to start up a complex system, but then you start handling random events, and you're going to eventually hit a bug. So that's why we refresh the screen because we know it'll be able to start up okay. All right, I digress again. So we got to and we send over we send over the task. This time it's compute factorial of 7. That's where the of came from. And then back up here, our worker is waiting on that. And this time he says, "Oh, you want me to compute the factorial?" And this is actually kind of silly. It computes factorials from 1 up to the value provided, and this was we're just goofing around here. We're just testing, so just give us a break, right? But it's interesting because it will send back multiple results on on one task, so we can begin to see that there's all sorts of capabilities down the road. At this point, we're just trying to get this dance going between a main isolate and one worker isolate. And I emphasize that because isolates in Flutter are very cool. There's such a thing as an isolate group. So if you have a lot of tasks to perform, you could create multiple isolates in the isolate group. They will share a resource, be much more efficient. It'll be much faster to create an isolate under an isolate group. And we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that. And when we do that, we'll get to do some really neat testing. And I wonder how many cores a sim uses. We might actually have to run that on a real iPhone in order to find out. All right, so we got the result listener. We actually got the task output. So we send out the task, and then our result listener might be smarter. Well, no, because he actually did process the config. I was going to say it might be smarter to have that below the dispatcher, but no, this actually runs first, gets the task port. Once it has the task port, the task gets sent. And then the worker will get the task and process it, and then shoot back the results, and those will come in through the result listener. And this, by the way, this right here is the rather boring end of the road. All it does is print out the different factorials. So if we wanted to, we would, we elaborate. But again, the point is now we have the dance end to end. We like to say we've now got that, we've seen that, and we feel comfortable. Oh, and cleanup. Okay. So this would be one enhancement. This will be my next enhancement. Right now, the cleanup is totally bogus. It just waits for 3 seconds and then shuts down everything. So what I want to do is, as long as we're accepting the idea that we're only going to handle one task, what I'll do is up here, after I compute the factorial, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to send these results back, and after this do sequa, I will come down here and I will do another task. You want to see me code it live? Well, I'll do that. I'll do that in the next one. But it would look something like this. Like, I've warned you about my typing. I don't know what you expected. Okay. Message type. EOJ. If those of you who have done a lot of batch COBOL, a lot of mainframe programming, know about your / EOJ code. I should put slashes in there. EOJ and EOJ says it all, kids. Well, all right. I mean, I can almost finish this, right? So now what am I going to do? I'll pause the video and let you think about it. Here it is. The result listener will be looking for, am I going to finish this while I'm yapping? Oops, missed. I don't do Pareto, and I'm not good typing. And I use a trackpad now for instead of a mouse, and it's just not as precise. And then I'll just say, DP Dart print. DP is Dart print. Do EOJ. Is that gonna work? No way. Do EOJ. So okay, so the EOJ worked. And then what I'll do is down here, this cleanup work will get moved up into here, and I'll definitely won't bore you with that because this is long enough already. Cheers.